The training field stretched across 3 kilometers of reinforced steel and energy barriers. Taeyang stood at the starting line, his breathing already heavy before the exercise even began. Around him, his fellow cadets prepared for the endurance run with casual confidence. They didn't need to warm up or mentally prepare like he did. Their bodies were simply built for this. To his left, a Vrexian cadet named Torval stretched his crystalline limbs. The alien stood nearly 3 meters tall, his body composed of living crystal that could withstand plasma fire. He noticed Taeyang watching and made a sound that the translator rendered as laughter. It wasn't cruel exactly, just amused, the way someone might chuckle at a house pet trying to climb stairs. Taeyang looked away and checked his equipment one more time. Standard academy training suit, oxygen regulator, and a water pack. Everything the same as what the other cadets wore. But on his human frame, the gear felt heavier. His legs were shorter, his lungs smaller, his muscles weaker. Every species in the academy had natural advantages that evolution had granted them over millions of years. Humans were generalists from a quiet world on the galaxy's edge. They had no special gifts. Cadets, attention! The voice of Chief Instructor Velmara boomed across the field. She was Vrexian like Torval, but older and decorated with scars from a dozen campaigns. Her crystalline body held a faint blue glow that indicated her rank. Today's exercise is simple. 3 times around the field, 45 minutes. Those who fail will face remedial training. 45 minutes. Taeyang did the math quickly. 9 kilometers in 45 minutes. For the other cadets, this was nothing. The Kelthir could run it in 15 minutes with their 4 powerful legs. The Mothari could float above the ground using their psionic abilities. Even the bulky Vrexians could lumber along at a pace that would exhaust any human. The starting horn blared. The cadets surged forward like a living wave. Taeyang pushed himself into a steady run, his heart already pounding. Within 30 seconds, he was alone at the back of the pack. He focused on his breathing, on his pace, on putting one foot in front of the other. This was what humans did. They weren't the fastest or the strongest, but they could keep going. His instructors back on Earth had told him that. They said humans were persistence hunters, that ancient humans had chased prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. He tried to remember that as his legs burned and his lungs ached. By the end of the first lap, Taeyang was 3 minutes behind the slowest non-human cadet. By the second lap, some of the faster cadets had already finished and were watching him struggle. He could see them pointing, could hear fragments of conversation that his translator picked up. "Why are they even here?" one alien asked. "Council politics," another responded. Humans wanted representation. The council couldn't refuse without seeming discriminatory. But they can't compete. Look at him. He's suffering. Taeyang gritted his teeth and kept running. His vision blurred at the edges. His legs felt like they were made of stone. But he didn't stop. He crossed the finish line at 42 minutes, 3 minutes ahead of the time limit. He collapsed immediately, his body shaking. Instructor Velmara stood over him. "You passed, Cadet Taeyang, barely." Her tone suggested that barely passing was worse than failing. "Report to the medical bay for recovery. Then join your squad for tactical briefing." Taeyang managed to nod. He couldn't speak yet. His throat was too dry, his chest heaving too hard. 2 medical drones helped him to his feet and guided him away. Behind him, he heard Velmara address the other cadets. "Speed and strength are important," she said. "But in my experience, the ones who barely pass today are often the first to die in real combat." Remember that the medical bay was efficient. Within 10 minutes, Taeyang's body had recovered enough to function normally. The alien technology was remarkable, using cellular regeneration to flush out lactic acid and restore energy. But it couldn't change his fundamental limitations. Tomorrow there would be another exercise and he would struggle again. He found his squad in briefing room 7. There were 8 cadets in Squad Theta, representing 6 different species. 2 of them were human. Hana sat in the corner reviewing data on her tablet. She was small even by human standards, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had graduated top of her class in tactical analysis back on Earth. But here at the academy, her physical limitations put her near the bottom of every practical exercise. Jiho sat beside her, tinkering with a piece of equipment that probably wasn't supposed to be disassembled. He was the squad's engineer, brilliant with technology but equally disadvantaged in combat situations. He looked up when Taeyang entered. "Heard about the run," Jiho said quietly. You made it, though. Barely, Taeyang said, echoing Velmara's words. He slumped into a seat. How was weapons training? Hana didn't look up from her tablet. I hit 17 of 20 targets. Torval hit all 20 in half the time with his natural crystalline projectiles. The instructor suggested I consider a support role instead of combat. The words hung in the air. Support role. It was the polite way of saying someone wasn't good enough for real fighting. All three humans had heard variations of that suggestion since arriving at the academy 4 months ago. The door slid open, and the rest of Squad Theta filed in. Torval, the massive Rexian. Sira, a Kelthir warrior with reflexes so fast she could dodge laser fire. Ven and Kos, twin Mothari, who could communicate telepathically and coordinate perfectly in combat. And Drell, a forge-born cyborg whose species had integrated technology into their bodies for generations. They all took their seats without acknowledging the humans. It wasn't malicious. They simply didn't see the three humans as relevant to the squad's success. Instructor Velmara entered last, a holographic display activating behind her. Your next training exercise is in 3 days, she announced. The Proving Ground. You'll face live combat situations against captured predators. This is where many cadets fail and some die. The room grew quiet. Everyone knew about the Proving Ground. It was the Academy's most dangerous test. Velmara's crystal eyes swept across the squad. They lingered on Taeyang, Hana, and Jiho for a moment longer than the others. The Council has mandated that all cadets participate, regardless of species. However, I must warn you, this exercise does not accommodate weakness. If you cannot survive, you will not graduate. Perhaps you will not survive at all. She dismissed them without another word. As the squad filed out, Taeyang heard Torval speaking to Sira in their native language. The translator caught fragments. The humans won't. Last, surprised. They made it this far. Proving. Ground will eliminate them. Taeyang walked back to his quarters alone. His body still ached from the run. His pride hurt worse. He sat on his bunk and pulled up information about the Proving Ground on his personal display. The details were sparse, classified, but everyone knew the basics. Real predators. Real danger. Real possibility of death. He thought about quitting. About going home to Earth where he wasn't the weakest, slowest, most inadequate being in every room. But something stopped him. Maybe it was stubbornness. Maybe it was pride. Or maybe it was something deeper. Something that humans carried in their genes without knowing it. He wasn't fast enough or strong enough, but he could keep trying. He could refuse to quit. Outside his window, the stars gleamed cold and distant. Somewhere out there, ancient predators waited in containment, ready to test whether he deserved to be here. Taeyang lay back on his bunk and closed his eyes. 3 days until the Proving Ground. 3 days to prepare for something he probably couldn't survive. But he would try anyway. That was what humans did. The containment level existed 3 floors below the main academy. Taeyang had never been down here before. Few cadets had. This was where the academy kept its most dangerous specimens, the predators used for advanced training. As Squad Theta descended in the lift, the air grew colder and the lights dimmer. Instructor Velmara led them through corridors lined with reinforced doors. Behind each door something waited. Taeyang could hear them, scratching, breathing. One made a sound like metal scraping against stone. His skin prickled with instinctive fear. The Proving Ground has been part of academy training for 2,000 years. Velmara explained as they walked. You will face real predators in controlled environments. The exercise tests your ability to survive, adapt, and work together under extreme pressure. They passed a containment cell with a transparent wall. Inside, a creature that looked like a living shadow paced back and forth. Its form seemed to shift and blur, never quite solid. Sira, the Kelthir warrior, moved closer to look. The creature slammed against the wall with shocking speed. Sira jumped back, her fur standing on end. Velmara continued walking. That is a Shadestalker from the Veil Nebula. It can bend light around itself and strike from complete invisibility. Last year it killed 2 cadets before their squad managed to drive it back. Hana's voice was quiet beside Taeyang. They let cadets die? The academy uses real danger because war is real danger, Velmara said without looking back. Better to learn your limits here than discover them when your entire platoon depends on you. They continued deeper into the containment level. The doors became thicker, the reinforcements stronger. Whatever lived in these cells was worse than anything they had seen so far. Velmara stopped at the largest door Taeyang had ever seen. It was 3 meters thick, made from some dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Warning symbols covered its surface in a dozen different languages. Energy barriers hummed with power around its frame. "This is why I brought you here today," Velmara said. "I want you to understand what you will face." She entered a code into the security panel. The door's viewing port opened, revealing a small window of reinforced crystal. "Look." Squad Theta gathered around the window. Taeyang had to stand on his toes to see inside. The containment cell was massive, at least 50 meters across, and in its center something moved. The World Eater was 4 meters tall and covered in armored scales that looked like they had been forged from black steel. Its body was vaguely reptilian but wrong in ways that Taeyang's brain struggled to process. Too many joints in the legs, claws that extended and retracted from hidden sheaths, a head that seemed too large for its body, filled with rows of teeth designed to tear through anything organic. But it was the eyes that made Taeyang's blood run cold. They were intelligent. Not animal cunning, but real intelligence. The creature was thinking, calculating, waiting. "The World Eater," Velmara said. "Its species has no official name. This is the only living specimen in captivity. We found it in the dead zones, the regions of space where entire civilizations have vanished without explanation." Torval pressed against the window. "I've read about these creatures. They consumed all life on dozens of worlds before disappearing. That's what the records suggest," Velmara confirmed. "This one was captured at enormous cost. 17 handlers have died in the 3 years since its capture. It killed the last one 2 months ago by tearing through reinforced armor that should have been impenetrable." Inside the cell, the World Eater suddenly looked up at the window, directly at them. Taeyang felt his heart stop. Those eyes fixed on him, and for a moment he was absolutely certain that the creature could see him. Could see through the reinforced crystal and the energy barriers and all the technology meant to keep it contained. Then it looked away and returned to pacing. "Why are you showing us this?" Jiho asked. His voice shook slightly. "Because the Council has mandated a change to this year's proving ground," Velmara said. She turned to face the squad, her crystalline face unreadable. Traditionally, squads face predators together. This year, each species will send one representative to face a predator alone. The silence that followed was absolute. "Alone?" Sierra finally said. "That violates centuries of protocol. The Council believes that individual merit must be tested separately from squad cooperation," Velmara said. "Each of you will face 2 minutes alone with a predator appropriate to your capabilities." Her eyes moved to Taeyang, Hana, and Jiho. "Including the humans." Hana spoke carefully. "What predator will we face?" Velmara gestured to the massive door. "The Council has decided that all cadets, regardless of species, should face the same challenge. You will each face the World Eater." The words didn't make sense at first. Taeyang's brain refused to process them. Face the World Eater alone. The creature that had killed 17 trained handlers. The apex predator from the dead zones. "That's murder," Hana said flatly. "We can't survive that. None of us can." "The Vrexians can withstand its attacks long enough to survive," Velmara said. "The Kelthir can outrun it. The Mothari can use psionic barriers. The Forgeborn have integrated weapons. Every species has natural advantages. And humans have nothing," Jiho said. Velmara didn't respond. She didn't need to. They all knew it was true. The next 2 days were a blur of preparation. Squad Theta trained together, but everyone knew the truth. When they faced the World Eater, they would be alone. Their squad couldn't help them. Taeyang spent hours in the combat simulators, practicing with every weapon the Academy provided. Plasma rifles, energy blades, sonic disruptors. Nothing felt adequate. The World Eater's scales could deflect plasma fire. Its speed made blades useless. And it was smart enough to adapt to any strategy. On the night before the proving ground, Taeyang found Hana and Jiho in the observation lounge. They sat together, staring out at the stars in silence. He joined them without speaking. "I've run the calculations," Hana finally said. "Based on the World Eater's documented capabilities and our physical limitations, our survival probability is less than 3%. "Stop," Jiho said quietly. "I'm just stating facts." "We know the facts," Jiho said. "Saying them out loud doesn't help." They sat in silence for a while. Then Taeyang spoke. "I'm scared. We all are, Hana said. No, I mean really scared. Not nervous scared, not worried scared. The kind of scared where I want to run away and never come back. Jiho nodded. Me too, but we won't run, Hana said. It wasn't a question. No, Taeyang agreed. We won't run. He didn't know why. It would be logical to refuse, to quit, to go home where they wouldn't die in an arena fighting a creature that evolution had designed to kill. But something in him refused to accept that option. Maybe it was pride, maybe it was stupidity, or maybe it was something older, something that humans carried without understanding it. The morning of the proving ground arrived too quickly. Squad Theta assembled in the preparation chamber adjacent to the arena. Through the transparent wall, Taeyang could see the space where they would fight. It was circular, 50 meters across, with obstacles and barriers scattered throughout. Emergency medical teams waited at the exits. Their presence was not reassuring. Velmara entered, accompanied by other instructors and several council observers. The gravity of the situation was clear. This wasn't routine training anymore. Cadets will face the World Eater in random order, Velmara announced. Each will have 2 minutes. You are provided standard combat equipment. Your objective is simple: survive. A holographic display showed the random selection. Names appeared one by one. Torval would go third, Sira fifth. Ven and Kos would go together, as was traditional for paired Mothari. Drell would go seventh. Then the human names appeared. Hana first, Jiho second. Taeyang last. Hana's face was pale but calm. She checked her equipment methodically. Plasma rifle, combat knife, smoke grenades, flash charges. Everything standard issue. Everything inadequate. Cadet Hana, Velmara called. You're first. Hana stood and walked toward the arena entrance. Taeyang wanted to say something encouraging, something that would help. But there was nothing to say. They both knew what she faced. The arena door opened. Hana stepped inside. Across the arena, a second door began to rise, revealing darkness beyond. And from that darkness, the World Eater emerged. It moved with terrible grace, its armored body flowing like liquid metal. It saw Hana immediately, and its head tilted, analyzing her. Then it charged. Hana threw a smoke grenade and rolled behind a barrier. The World Eater crashed through the barrier like it was paper. Hana fired her plasma rifle, the shots hitting its scales and dissipating harmlessly. She ran, using every obstacle, every bit of cover. The 2 minutes lasted forever and passed in an instant. When the timer reached 0, emergency barriers slammed down between Hana and the creature. She collapsed, gasping, bleeding from a dozen small cuts but alive. Medical drones rushed in. The World Eater roared its frustration as handlers used neural prods to force it back into its containment cell. 1 down, 8 to go. Taeyang watched as Jiho prepared for his turn. His friend was shaking, but his hands were steady as he checked his equipment. When his name was called, Jiho walked into the arena without hesitation. The World Eater was angrier now, frustrated by Hana's survival. It moved faster, hit harder. Jiho managed to jury-rig an energy barrier using equipment from the ARE. The arena was hot. Taeyang could feel sweat already forming on his skin as he stepped past the entrance barrier. His plasma rifle felt heavy in his hands. His knife was strapped to his thigh. 2 minutes. He just had to survive for 2 minutes. The World Eater stood at the far end of the arena, 30 meters away. Its massive body was still, but Taeyang could see its muscles coiled and ready. It had fought 8 times already in the past hour. It should have been tired. But those intelligent eyes were fully alert, fixed on him. From the observation deck above, Taeyang knew that hundreds of beings were watching: instructors, council members, his fellow cadets, all waiting to see how quickly the human would fall. The starting tone sounded. The World Eater exploded into motion. It crossed 20 meters in less than 3 seconds, its claws tearing gouges in the reinforced floor. Taeyang raised his rifle, his finger on the trigger, waiting for the right moment to fire, even though he knew the shots would do nothing. The creature closed to 15 meters, 10 meters, then it stopped. The World Eater's claws screeched across the floor as it skidded to a halt. It stood there 5 meters from Taeyang, its entire body tense. Its head weaved left and right, studying him. Its nostrils flared, taking in his scent. Taeyang didn't move. He kept his rifle aimed at the creature's head, though his arms were shaking. Seconds ticked by. The World Eater didn't attack. Instead, it began to circle. The creature moved sideways, keeping the same distance, its eyes never leaving Taeyang. It was the behavior of something cautious, something uncertain. Taeyang turned slowly, keeping the World Eater in front of him, his rifle still raised. From above, he could hear confused voices. The observation deck speakers carried fragments of conversation. What's happening? Why isn't it attacking? Is the human using some kind of technology? The World Eater completed one full circle around Taeyang, then stopped. It lowered its head and made a sound Taeyang had never heard before. Not a roar, not a snarl, something else. Something that made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. It was a sound of fear. The creature backed away. One step, then another. Its armored tail swept the ground nervously. Every predatory instinct should have driven it forward to kill the small, weak thing in front of it. But it retreated instead. In the observation deck, Instructor Velmara's voice cut through the confusion. This is impossible. Handlers use the neural prods. Force it to engage. Through vents in the arena walls, long metal rods extended. They crackled with blue energy. The handlers on the other side thrust them toward the World Eater, delivering shocks that would have killed most beings instantly. The creature screeched in agony. Its body spasmed. The smell of burned flesh filled the arena. But even as the prods shocked it again and again, the World Eater refused to approach Taeyang. Instead, it hurled itself sideways, slamming into the arena wall with enough force to crack the reinforced surface. Stop, someone shouted from above. You're going to kill it. The prods retracted. The World Eater collapsed to the arena floor, its body smoking. But its eyes remained fixed on Taeyang, and in those eyes Taeyang saw something he hadn't expected. Not rage, not hunger, terror. The 2-minute timer reached 0. Emergency barriers slammed down with a metallic clang, separating Taeyang from the World Eater. The arena doors opened. Taeyang backed toward the exit slowly, not wanting to turn away from the creature. The World Eater didn't move. It just watched him leave, its breathing rapid and shallow. Taeyang stepped through the door into the preparation chamber. The silence was absolute. Every being in the room stared at him. Hana and Jiho rushed forward, but they stopped short, their faces showing confusion and concern. What did you do? Jiho whispered. Nothing, Taeyang said. His voice sounded distant to his own ears. I didn't do anything. It just wouldn't fight. Velmara descended from the observation deck, her crystalline face rigid with confusion. Behind her came the council observers, along with several beings wearing the insignia of xenobiology specialists. Cadet Taeyang, Velmara said, you will submit to immediate scanning. We need to determine what technology or substance you use to influence the creature. I didn't use anything, Taeyang protested. Just standard equipment. You can check. They did check. For the next 3 hours, Taeyang was subjected to every scan the Academy possessed. Medical drones analyzed his biology. Technicians examined his equipment molecule by molecule. Psionic specialists probed his mind for any hint of telepathic influence. They found nothing. Hana and Jiho underwent the same examination. The results were identical. 3 completely normal humans with no abnormalities, no hidden technology, no explanation for what had happened. While the examinations continued, the Academy ran additional tests with the World Eater. They sent Torval back into the arena. The creature attacked him immediately with full aggression. Sierra went next. Same result. The World Eater fought with the same vicious intelligence it had shown before. Then they sent Hana in alone. The World Eater emerged from its containment cell, saw Hana, and retreated to the far wall. It wouldn't approach her. When handlers tried to force it forward with neural prods, it attempted to climb the walls to escape. Its claws scrabbling uselessly against the smooth surface. They tried Jiho. Same result. The pattern was undeniable. The World Eater, the apex predator from the dead zones, the creature that had killed 17 trained handlers, refused to fight humans. Emergency council session was called. Taeyang, Hana, and Jiho were brought before the council chambers along with Velmara and half the Academy's senior staff. The chambers were designed to accommodate multiple species, with varying gravity zones and atmosphere controls. The council members sat in a semicircle, representing the major civilizations of the galaxy. High Counselor Thexara, a Vrexian elder whose crystal body bore the deep blue of extreme age, spoke first. We have reviewed all data from today's events. The facts are clear but inexplicable. The specimen designated World Eater refuses to engage human cadets while attacking all other species without hesitation. Another council member, a Mothari named Sar, added her telepathic voice to the discussion. It came through the translation system as a gentle whisper. We have consulted with our most experienced xenopsychologists. No known phenomenon explains this behavior. The humans possess no pheromones, no psionic abilities, no technological advantages that would deter a predator. Then what's causing it? Asked Dren, a Kelther counselor. Creatures don't refuse to attack prey without reason, especially not apex predators. Their instincts are too strong. A figure emerged from the shadows at the back of the chamber. He was Mothari, but older than any Taiyang had seen, his body almost translucent with age. The council members straightened in their seats, showing respect. This is Dr. Kyle, Thexara explained. He is our foremost expert on xenopsychology and predator behavior. He has studied the World Eater species for decades. Dr. Kale floated forward, his psionic abilities keeping him aloft. When he spoke, his voice carried a weight that made everyone listen. I believe I know what is happening. But you will not like the answer. The chamber fell silent. The World Eater species evolved in the dead zones. Dr. Kale continued. They became the ultimate apex predators in that region of space. No other species could challenge them. They consumed entire planetary ecosystems and moved on. They should have been unstoppable. He paused, his ancient eyes moving to Taiyang. But something stopped them. Something drove them to near extinction. And I believe their species developed genetic memory as a survival mechanism. Traits and warnings passed from parent to offspring through their very DNA. What kind of warning? Velmara asked. The kind that says stay away from the persistence predators, Dr. Kale said. Stay away from the bipedal hunters who never stop. Stay away from the species that tracks you across continents in days and weeks until you collapse from exhaustion. Stay away from the beings who turn anything into a weapon and refuse to give up even when wounded or dying. He turned to address the full council. The World Eater isn't refusing to fight the humans because it doesn't see them as prey. It's refusing because it recognizes them as the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. Its genetic memory remembers what happened the last time its species encountered humans. That's impossible, Thexara said. Humans are a young species. They've only achieved space travel in the last few centuries. They couldn't have encountered the World Eaters millions of years ago. Not humans as they are now, Dr. Kale agreed, but their ancestors. Early hominids who left Earth's atmosphere through means we don't understand. Or perhaps humans are not from Earth originally. The point is, somewhere in the past, the World Eater species learned that certain prey was too dangerous to hunt. This is speculation, Dren objected. Then explain the behavior. Dr. Kale said simply, explain why an apex predator shows fear of physically inferior prey. Explain why that fear is consistent across all humans, regardless of individual characteristics. No one had an answer. Dr. Kale turned back to Taiyang. The World Eater sees you and its DNA screams a warning. It doesn't know why. It just knows that beings like you are connected to extinction events, to being hunted until there's nowhere left to run. Taiyang found his voice. But we're not dangerous. We're the weakest species here. Everyone knows that. Physics. The academy transformed overnight. What had been a training facility became a research center. Scientists arrived from across the galaxy, all wanting to study the humans who had made an apex predator refuse to fight. Taeyang, Hana, and Jiho found themselves at the center of attention they had never wanted. Dr. Kale established a research lab in one of the academy's largest chambers. Taeyang sat in a medical scanner for the 4th time that week, while holographic displays showed his genetic code in microscopic detail. Hana was in the adjacent scanner and Jiho in the one beside her. They had become test subjects rather than cadets. There must be something, Dr. Kale murmured, studying the displays. Some marker in your DNA, some chemical signature. Something the World Eater's instincts recognize. We've been scanned 100 times, Jiho said tiredly. You haven't found anything. Because we're looking at the wrong things, Dr. Kale said. We're analyzing you as you are now. But genetic memory doesn't respond to current traits. It responds to ancient ones. Traits that might not even be active anymore but leave echoes in your DNA. A younger researcher, a Vrexian named Kess, approached with a data tablet. Dr. Kale, we've finished mapping the genetic markers that activate in the World Eater's brain when it sees humans. The results are Unusual. Dr. Kale took the tablet and studied it. His expression grew thoughtful. These markers are linked to deep survival instincts, flight response, trauma inheritance, the kind of genetic memory that forms when a species faces extinction-level threats repeatedly. Repeatedly? Hana asked. How many times? At least 7 distinct genetic markers, Kess said. Each one represents a separate threat that the World Eater species learned to fear, and pass that fear to offspring. Most species have 2 or 3 such markers. 7 is extraordinary. What threatens an apex predator 7 times? Taeyang asked. Dr. Kale looked at him. The same thing. Over and over. A threat that kept coming back no matter how far they ran. The research continued for days. The Academy's historical archives were opened, and scholars began searching for any connection between humans and the dead zones. The dead zones were vast regions of space where civilizations had thrived millions of years ago. Then over a period of several thousand years, every world in those regions had gone silent. No war, no plague markers, just empty worlds with ruins. Taeyang couldn't focus on training anymore. None of them could. Squad Theta's exercises continued. But everyone knew something fundamental had changed. The other cadets no longer looked at the humans with pity or amusement. They looked at them with uncertainty, sometimes with fear. Torval approached Taeyang in the dining hall one evening. The massive Vrexian sat down across from him, his crystalline body reflecting the overhead lights. I owe you an apology, Torval said quietly. Taeyang looked up from his food, surprised. For what? For not taking you seriously. For assuming you were weak just because your body is different from mine. Torval gestured to the room around them. Everyone here thought the same thing. We saw your physical limitations and assumed that's all you were. We were wrong. We don't even know what this means yet, Taeyang said. Maybe it's just some weird biological accident. No, Torval said firmly. I've fought in combat. I know what real danger looks like. And I saw what was in the World Eater's eyes when it looked at you. That wasn't an accident. That was recognition. Before Taeyang could respond, an announcement echoed through the Academy's communication system. All personnel and cadets report to the main assembly hall. Dr. Kale has findings to present. The assembly hall was packed. Every cadet, every instructor, and every researcher crammed into the space. The council members appeared via hologram, their images projected large above the crowd. Taeyang, Hana, and Jiho were directed to seats at the front, uncomfortably visible to everyone. Dr. Kale floated to the center of the hall. Behind him, a massive holographic display activated showing a map of the galaxy. Certain regions were highlighted in red. These are the dead zones, Dr. Kale began. 17 regions of space where advanced civilizations existed 3 million years ago. Then they vanished. We've always assumed some catastrophic event destroyed them, war perhaps or a plague, but we were wrong. The display zoomed in on one dead zone. Images of ruined worlds appeared, cities crumbled, forests overgrown, oceans empty. Archaeological teams have studied these worlds for centuries. We found no evidence of war, no biological weapons, no stellar catastrophes. The civilization simply ended. Population centers were abandoned. Technology left behind, as if everyone just walked away. Or ran away, someone in the audience murmured. Dr. Kale nodded. Exactly. And now we know what they were running from. The display shifted, showing Earth. A small blue world on the galaxy's outer rim, dangerously close to the nearest dead zone. Earth's fossil records show that anatomically modern humans appeared approximately 300,000 years ago. But their ancestors, early hominids, existed for millions of years before that, and during that time something remarkable happened. The display showed a timeline. Dates and migration patterns appeared. Approximately 3.2 million years ago, early human ancestors began exhibiting unprecedented behaviors. They developed persistence hunting, the ability to track prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. They created increasingly sophisticated tools. They showed problem-solving abilities that exceeded every other species on their planet. They formed complex social groups that could coordinate over vast distances. Dr. Kale paused, letting the information sink in. And 3 million years ago, the first dead zone worlds went silent. The assembly hall erupted in noise, voices raised in disbelief, excitement, and fear. Dr. Kale raised his hand for silence. I cannot prove direct causation, he admitted. But the correlation is striking. As humans evolved their most dangerous traits, entire regions of space became graveyards, and the World Eater species, which thrived in those regions, learned to fear a specific type of predator. A council member, High Counselor Thexara, spoke through his hologram. You're suggesting that primitive humans who hadn't even achieved fire yet somehow traveled to other star systems and caused the collapse of entire civilizations? I'm suggesting that humans, or something very similar to humans, existed in those regions, Dr. Kale said. Perhaps they evolved independently on multiple worlds. Perhaps humans originally came from the dead zones and later settled on Earth. We don't know. But the World Eater's genetic memory is clear. It knows to avoid bipedal persistence predators. And humans are the only known species that matches that description. Hana stood up. But we're not killers. Humans aren't monsters. We don't destroy civilizations. Dr. Kale's expression softened. No, you're not monsters. But you are survivors. And sometimes, the traits that ensure survival are the same traits that make you terrifying to those who aren't prepared for them. He brought up new images. Ancient cave paintings from Earth. Crude drawings showing stick figures hunting massive animals. Your ancestors hunted prey that could kill them easily in direct combat. Mammoths, giant predators. But they won anyway because they refused to give up. They tracked. They planned. They worked together. And they never ever stopped. Taeyang felt something shift in his understanding. He had always thought of humans as weak, as the species that had to struggle harder than everyone else just to keep up. But maybe that struggle was the point. Maybe having to work for every advantage, having to never give up because giving up meant death, had created something the galaxy wasn't ready for. Jiho spoke up. What happened to the civilizations in the dead zones? If humans or pre-humans caused the collapse, why? What were they trying to do? We don't know, Dr. Kale said honestly. The records are millions of years old and incomplete. But based on what we've found, I can offer a theory. He brought up images of ruins, strange structures that didn't match any known architectural style. The dead zone civilizations were advanced, much more advanced than current galactic civilization. They had technology we still don't understand. But they also had something else, hubris. They believed they were the apex of evolution, that nothing could challenge them. So they hunted humans? Taeyang asked. Perhaps. Or perhaps they enslaved them. Or tried to eliminate them as pests. We'll probably never know, but I believe the humans or pre-humans did what they do best. They survived. And they kept surviving. And eventually, the civilizations that tried to destroy them discovered that you can't kill what refuses to die. The assembly hall was silent now. Everyone was thinking about the implications, Dr. Kale continued. The World Eater species watched it happen. They saw entire civilizations fall to creatures that seemed weak and helpless, and their DNA learned the most important lesson. Run, hide, but never hunt the persistence predators.
Because they will outlast you.
They will track you across space and time, and they will never stop coming. A Kelther instructor stood up. This is just a theory. You have no proof. No, Dr. Kale agreed. But I have the World Eater, and its fear is proof enough for me. The meeting ended, but the discussions continued throughout the academy. Taeyang walked back to his quarters in a daze. Hana and Jiho walked with him, none of them speaking. Finally, Jiho broke the silence. Do you think it's true that humans caused all that? The council's emergency session lasted 3 days. Taeyang watched the proceedings through a live feed in the academy's observation lounge. Delegates from every major civilization debated what Dr. Kale's findings meant for humanity's place in the galaxy. Some council members argued that humans should be restricted. If their ancestors had caused the collapse of entire civilizations even unknowingly, then they posed a potential threat. Others countered that modern humans had done nothing wrong and shouldn't be punished for events millions of years in the past, if those events had even happened at all. The debate went in circles until High Counselor Thexara finally called for order. We cannot change the past, the ancient Vrexian said, his voice carrying the weight of centuries, but we must decide how to move forward. The humans are here. They are part of the galactic community, and we have seen evidence that they possess traits we do not fully understand. A Mothari delegate spoke up, her telepathic voice gentle. Perhaps we have been asking the wrong question. We ask whether humans are dangerous, But every species is dangerous under the right circumstances. The real question is, what can we learn from them? That shifted the conversation. Instead of debating threats, the council began discussing the traits that made humans unique. Their persistence, their refusal to accept defeat, their ability to adapt to any environment, their capacity to turn disadvantages into advantages. These are not weaknesses, Thexara concluded. We mistook them for weaknesses because they do not match our definition of strength. But the World Eater knows better. It recognizes true danger when it sees it. The Council's final decision came on the 4th day. Humans would not only remain in the Academy, but would be actively recruited. Their unique abilities were exactly what the Galactic Defense Forces needed. The motion passed with overwhelming support. When Taiyang heard the news, he didn't feel triumphant. He felt strange, confused. He had spent months believing he was inadequate, that humans didn't belong among the warrior races. Now the galaxy was saying the opposite. It was too much to process. Instructor Velmara called Squad Theta together for a private meeting. She looked different somehow. The way she held herself had changed. When she spoke to Taiyang, Hana, and Jiho, there was something in her crystalline eyes that hadn't been there before. Respect. The Academy owes you an apology, Velmara said. We judged you by standards that were never designed for your species. We saw your physical limitations and assumed they defined you. We were wrong. We're still not as strong as the other species, Taiyang said. That hasn't changed. No, Velmara agreed. But strength comes in many forms. The Vrexians are strong because our bodies are nearly indestructible. The Kelthir are strong because of their speed and reflexes. The Mothari are strong through their psionic abilities. And humans are strong because you refuse to quit. Because you adapt. Because when every advantage is taken away, you find new ones. She activated a holographic display showing training scenarios. We're redesigning the Academy's curriculum. The old methods focused on maximizing each species' natural advantages. But that approach creates warriors who are helpless when those advantages are neutralized. Humans have something to teach us about fighting without advantages, about surviving when survival seems impossible. Torval spoke up. You want us to learn to fight like humans? I want you to understand what makes them effective, Velmara said. Because someday you might face an enemy that can counter your natural abilities. On that day you'll need to think like a human, to persist like a human, to refuse to give up even when logic says you should. Over the following weeks, the Academy transformed. Human cadets were no longer viewed as charity cases or political necessities. They became instructors in their own right, teaching classes on persistence tactics, adaptive thinking, and psychological warfare. Hana's tactical analysis became required study. Jiho's engineering improvisations were analyzed and incorporated into field manuals, and Taeyang found himself teaching a class on something he had never considered a skill: endurance. Humans evolved to run, he explained to a classroom of alien cadets who could all outrun him in a sprint, but not for speed, for distance. Our ancestors hunted by following prey for days. The prey would run away fast and strong, but it couldn't run forever. Eventually it would collapse from exhaustion, and the humans would still be coming. A Kelthir cadet raised a paw. But we can run farther than you. Our endurance exceeds human capability. In your natural environment, yes, Taeyang agreed. But what if you're injured? What if you're in hostile terrain? What if you've been fighting for hours and your body is failing? Humans evolved to keep going under exactly those conditions. Not because we're naturally better at endurance, but because we had to be. Giving up meant death. The cadet considered this. So it's not physical. It's mental. It's both, Taeyang said. Our bodies are adapted for persistence, but more importantly, our minds are. We're wired to keep trying even when it seems hopeless. That's what the World Eater recognized. Not physical strength, but the psychological profile of a predator that never stops hunting. After class, several cadets stayed to ask questions. They wanted to understand this strange species that had seemed so weak, but had made an apex predator flee in terror. One evening, Dr. Kale requested a meeting with Taeyang. They met in the observation lounge, looking out at the stars. The old Mothari floated beside him in comfortable silence for a while. I've been studying Earth's history, Dr. Kale finally said. Reading your ancient texts, examining your cultural development. Do you know what I find most remarkable? What? Your stories, Every human culture, no matter how isolated, tells the same types of stories. Tales of heroes who face impossible odds and win through persistence. Legends of ordinary people who become extraordinary through refusal to give up. Even your children's stories follow this pattern. I never thought about it, Taeyang admitted. It's in your DNA, Dr. Kale said. Not just the physical traits, but the psychological ones. You celebrate persistence because it's fundamental to what you are. Other species celebrate strength or speed or intelligence. Humans celebrate the stubborn refusal to quit. Is that a good thing? It's a powerful thing, Dr. Kale said. Whether it's good or bad depends on how it's used. But the galaxy is learning that it's something to respect. He paused, then added, I have a request. The Council wants to continue studying the World Eater's reaction to humans, but we need to understand it better. Would you be willing to meet with the creature again? In a controlled environment, of course. Taeyang felt his heart race. Why? Because we need to know if the fear can be overcome. If the World Eater can learn to distinguish between ancient threats and modern reality. And because I think you deserve to understand what it sees when it looks at you. After a long moment, Taeyang agreed. The meeting was arranged for the following week. This time there would be no arena, no combat scenario. Just Taeyang and the World Eater, separated by a transparent energy barrier that could withstand a starship weapon. The containment chamber was different than before, smaller, more observation equipment. Dr. Kale and a team of researchers monitored from behind additional barriers. Taeyang stood alone on one side of the main barrier. The World Eater was brought in by handlers using neural prods, though they were more careful this time. The creature entered the opposite side of the barrier and saw Taeyang immediately. The reaction was instant. The World Eater backed against the far wall, its body low, its eyes fixed on Taeyang. But something was different. The pure terror from before had faded slightly. Now there was curiosity mixed with the fear. Dr. Kale's voice came through a speaker. Talk to it. I know it can't understand your words, but tone matters. Let it hear you. Taeyang felt foolish, but he spoke anyway. I'm not going to hurt you. I know you're scared. I know your instincts are screaming at you to run. But I'm not what your DNA remembers. I'm just a cadet trying to learn, just like you're just a creature trying to survive. The World Eater tilted its head. Its breathing slowed slightly. Whatever my ancestors did to your ancestors, I'm sorry, Taeyang continued. I don't know what happened millions of years ago. Maybe humans hunted your kind. Maybe we were the reason your species nearly went extinct. But that's not who I am. I'm not a hunter. I'm just trying to find my place in the galaxy. He moved closer to the barrier. The World Eater tensed but didn't retreat further. I know what it's like to be scared, Taeyang said quietly. To feel like you don't belong. To face things that are stronger and faster and better than you. I've felt that every day since I came to the academy. Every exercise where I finished last. Every simulation where I failed. Every time someone looked at me and wondered why I was even here. The World Eater's eyes locked onto his. In that moment, Taeyang felt a strange connection. Two beings who didn't belong. Two creatures caught between what they were and what others expected them to be. But I'm still here, Taeyang said, because humans don't quit. Even when we should. Even when it would be logical to give up and go home. We keep going. Not because we're strong, but because we don't know how to stop. He placed his hand against the barrier. The World Eater stared at the hand for a long moment. Then slowly it moved forward. One step, another, it